Okay.
Because I got some good news for everybody.
I like good news.
Now, I think we all want some good news, and I am proud to share this news with you. It has to deal with none other than Senator Bernie Sanders. Here we go. Now, why am I talking about Bernie Sanders? Don't worry, this is not a smear article. Finally. Don't worry.
Took long enough.
Yeah, it took long
Yeah.
enough. This is from Common Dreams. Senator Bernie Sanders is the first presidential candidate to right now that has reached 4 million individual contributions, faster than any other presidential candidate in history. This is a milestone the campaign has touted as evidence that the Vermont senator is surging. Was less than 8 days ago before the Iowa caucus. This is what momentum looks like, says Faiz Sakar, Bernie Sanders' campaign manager. Working class Americans across the country are chipping in $3, $18, $27, or whatever they can to help elect Bernie Sanders because they know he is the only candidate who will fight for them and take on corporate greed and corruption. I couldn't agree more. This is damn impressive, tweeted progressive strategist Rebecca Katz. The fundraising milestone comes after Sanders received major endorsements. Here's 3 of them right now. And we talked about them not only last week, but yesterday as well. National Nurses United, United Teachers Los Angeles, and the California Young Democrats. Sanders led all 2020 Democratic presidential candidates in a fundraising in the third quarter of 2019, ranking in $25.3 million from an average donation of just $18. Also, Bernie Sanders' major supporters not only come from teachers, but also workers from Amazon, Walmart, and Starbucks have been the top employers of Sanders' contributors. And on top of that, the campaign is still gaining more and more momentum and actually is being acknowledged by a lot of people, a lot of progressive strategists. And it breaks this neoliberal narrative that we've been getting from corporate media since day one. Oh, Bernie Sanders is out of touch. Bernie Sanders' ideas are great, but other people know how to do them better. Look at Pete Buttigieg's plan. Look at Warren. Look at Biden. Bernie's done. You know, Bernie did a lot of damage in 2016. No one's going to follow him. He's irrelevant. Bull crap. Look at all the events Bernie Sanders is holding, whether they're at stadiums, arenas, or just like even New York's, what was the name of the park? The park that he had held his rally in? Bernie Sanders.
I don't remember. Oh,
It was
man.
yeah. Park with name.
Parks in New York.
Central Park.
No,
It wasn't Central.
That would have been a lot of people.
No, that
That
would have
would've
been a lot of people. All right, well, I screwed that up. I had a good momentum, but then I screwed that up.
Someone
It was
in chat
near
can
a
tell us,
bridge.
and we'll
There
be
was a bridge
we'll
in
be
the
like,
picture.
oh yeah, right. It's that one. It's next to the biggest housing
Right.
center.
But again, just remember, it's Bernie Sanders that's filling in these stadiums and arenas. It's Bernie Sanders that's holding massive rallies. It's Bernie Sanders that is gaining more and more support from progressives, unions, teachers, regular working class Americans. And corporate media was saying that, oh, he's irrelevant. No, he's breaking that myth. He's breaking that narrative. And the establishment media doesn't know what to do. So what's the media going to do? They're going to not talk about him or somehow mess around with the polls and have him at, I don't know, 3rd place or 4th place while candidates like Pete Buttigieg or Warren or Biden are somehow surging ahead. And there's all these fake articles right now that are basically talking about, oh, Bernie Sanders is falling behind, or they're not even acknowledging the fact that he's leading in certain polls. This is why you need independent media, because corporate media wants to cover up Bernie Sanders because he's a threat to them. Because never forget, 6 major corporations control all the media, and the last thing they want is someone who's going to tip over their apple cart. This is showing that Bernie Sanders and his potential presidential administration is the administration that Americans need, because it is something that can inspire people to step up and get involved. And I think now more than ever, Sanders is proving he is the nominee, and there's nothing that the neoliberal centrist Democrats or corporate media can do about it.
Well, we do know that CNN and all these other news agencies would love to cover those polls that Bernie was leading in, but they accidentally dropped a knife on their face 10 times, and they just couldn't cover them. So I don't know what they can do.
Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious that the enthusiasm is behind the Bernie Sanders campaign, or at least there's a huge amount of enthusiasm, as Bernie getting to this level of donations indicates. And we talk a lot on this show about how mainstream press does a particularly poor job of covering that, tends to cover it in the opposite direction or just ignore it. And I mean, the numbers don't lie. I mean, there's enthusiasm behind this campaign, and there's good reason why.
Well, there's a lot of good reasons why, because, who motivated people to run after 2016? Who inspired I don't know, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashid Tlaib, Ilhan Omar to step up and run? Who inspired numerous other progressives to run and get involved, whether at the federal level, at the state level, at the county or city level? It was Bernie Sanders. It wasn't Warren. It wasn't Pete Buttigieg. It wasn't Beto O'Rourke. It sure as hell wasn't Joe Biden. It's Bernie Sanders. And I say this on the show, but please understand where I'm coming from when I say it. Bernie Sanders will not be around forever. So it's going to be up to us to step up to get involved. And Bernie Sanders is the president or is the person who should get the nomination, who should win the presidential race, because he can inspire other people to finally get involved in our corrupt elected system and actually bring in much needed political reform. It's Bernie Sanders that's inspiring people, and it's time for us to follow that. He's leading by example, and we must follow.
So I just want to say that this is something. 4 million is an enormous amount of donors. We talk about mainstream media all the time. Mainstream media, reaches an audience of about 30 million people ish. They're reaching, less than 10% of the country. Bernie Sanders, and this is quite early on, like most people, like you guys that are watching, you guys understand politics, you guys know politics, you guys care about politics. Most people haven't even tuned into the election yet. This is still a kind of not even public talking yet. I remember everyone's talking about, Ukraine Gate because Russia Gate wasn't enough. And right now, Bernie Sanders has his 1 million man army. He has 4 million donations. He has everything that he could ask for. He's placing really well in polls. As much as they try to hide them, they can't.
But Daniel, the way you're describing it almost seems like corporate media screwed up everything from day one. Are you telling me that the media got it wrong again about Bernie Sanders?
I will say again what I've said before. How is it possible that the three of us sitting here and the rest of the team with basically no budget can get time after time? We can see Trump coming. We can see the fall of Clinton. We can see, we can make a bet before Biden gets in the race of when he's going to drop out.
He
and
should
we're
have followed
accurate.
my. He
Yeah,
should have followed
he
my
should have followed your-
example.
And what?
Or
and
at least my
and we're going to
advice.
do that, and we are way more accurate than mainstream media. If mainstream media says something, bet the other direction, and you will get more money than if you follow them.
So there are a couple of things I think you can really take away from this. One of them is maybe a little more optimistic than the other, so I guess I'll start there. And that is, people respond to Bernie's consistency, Bernie's message, the fact that the things he's been talking about, he hasn't been able to force the government to do, and we keep arguing that we should try it, and we keep being told it'll never work, it'll never work, it'll never work. And it's like, maybe you guys that are saying that it'll never work are the ones that are just in the way.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it. That's the more optimistic reading. I think there's certainly an element of truth to that. But if nothing else, the bare minimum you can take away is that Bernie shows that taking money from large corporations and the donor class is not the only way to build a war chest, right? You can build a war chest with donations from individual citizens who know that you have their interests at heart and aren't beholden to the special interests who've given you gobs of money.
So I just want to mention just two things before we do move on to our next story. First, number one, tomorrow, November 20th, we will be covering the 5th Democratic presidential debate, so we'll be paying very close attention to that. And also, number two, this is a very interesting excerpt from the article that I forgot to mention, but the Sanders campaign said that it did not reach 4 million individual contributions in 2016 until after the New Hampshire primary in February. That says a lot, comparing and contrasting 2016 to this soon-to-be 2020 election cycle. It's not even 2020, it's 2019. We're right now just in the debates. No primary has even happened right now. And Bernie Sanders already now has 4 million individual contributions.
I just want to say one last thing before we move on. This is bigger army diplomacy at work. Sanders is getting more people, more donations, more everything faster than before. And again, politically, in a democracy, they can only pull so many strings. They can only try and slow him down in so many ways. And we saw the extent to which they could do that in 2016 when they were at their most powerful. Now they're weaker. Now they're more split. Now they are the ones running multiple establishment candidates where there's only a few progressives. Everything is moving in our direction as progressives, more than it has ever before, at least.
It's the bad theory.
Yeah.
The bigger army diplomacy theory.
Yeah.
It's usually them. They usually have money, but now we have volunteers and everything else.
Yep.
We're flipping we got the big army now. Everyone, congratulations. Give yourself a pat on the back. You were part of that army.